just to be clear, I'm doing this live, making sure that it is broadcasting. It is not a hangout, however. But I want to make a message I have for a while. I've left a bunch of comments to this effect about this attack on Thunderf00t. Those who don't know about it, I'm not sure if it's worth me making a summary, but I guess I will. A user I'm not familiar with, Laughing Witch, admitted to starting a letter writing campaign or something, and it seems that though she also sent this letter herself, though she might have denied it or whatever, basically she sent a letter to Thunderf00t's employer, some guy named Braying Ape or Branding some ape guy, had sent this letter to, and when he made his video about it, he admitted he did it, or saying he'd announce it, I don't know, I missed that. He made clear that he'd also sent it to the police, accusing Thunderf00t of being a Nazi and various other things hysterically. And then Laughing Witch, at the very least, I saw her before she took her channel down now, admit that she was for it and supported it, and likened it to a letter writing campaign against Rush Limbaugh or something. And how I saw all this was, I saw the Thunderf00t video, but then Jenny McDermott, who I've only seen a few videos of, but she's come up in some of this feminism stuff, was talking about it also in support of Laughing Witch, which is ridiculous. I left comments in their videos about this. Well, one, it's nothing like a letter writing campaign to Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is paid by his employer to say the things he's saying. Whether they choose them or not is beside the point, because he's getting paid to say them and so on. Writing them is they're part of that, of the microphone. Now, going after somebody's employer, however, that is unrelated, he does research there of some sort, is ridiculous. It's totally inappropriate, and the reasons should be obvious. The immorality of it, again, obvious, but you make a justification. It's not really immoral because you're fighting something that needs to be fought. It's like, no, that's an attack on the conversation, right? And it plays into the anti-SJW and the feminist hands in much the same way that leaving Anita Sarkeesian, comments saying you're going to rape her or she's a cunt or something, plays into feminist hands in a way that destroys the debate, because I don't have a side that I want to win by any means. I have a view of what means should count, of how we should rationally judge. And so it's an attempt, and one of those is that we should be able to have the conversation. People shouldn't be forced into the closet. There's lines, because ideally even people doing criminal activities, you could see what's going on and learn something about that situation by having a free zone where you can discuss things. On the other hand, if you see somebody doing something illegal and broadcasting it through their YouTube channel, well, I mean, as a citizen, you have a right and possibly a responsibility to report that. This obviously isn't that case. And Laughing Witch seems very unstable to me, in that she has this idea that she's doing this to clean up the YouTubes. It's like, well, you know what? YouTube pays for him to have that microphone. You could contact YouTube, and you could even say you thought he was like a Nazi or something. That might be justifiable. But she actually said that this would be to get the hate off YouTube. If you think going after people's livelihood is going to get rid of the hate, you're like George Bush, that thinks that bombing a country is going to get rid of the hate. We got people that hate us over there. What do? We'll bomb. It's like, well, unless you genocide and finish bombing, that's going to create more hate. Guaranteed. For sure. Drone bombing, a hospital with a couple criminals in it, it's not going to endear you to the hundreds of people that were just, dad was there for a heart bypass or auto accident or something. So that's just irrational right off the bat. And then also, to prove something, she put up a video, screenshotted a letter that she said she didn't send, to prove that she didn't send what she did send under her own name. So all the Thunderbots read the letter and see it's the letter she's claiming not to have sent or something, and also her real name, because she's like, look, I used my real name. Not, you just attacked Thunderfoot, and then you're going to put your real name in a video. I mean, that's beyond irrational. That's into the subconsciously self-destructive, like when subconscious, like a Tourette's victim that has to say the wrong thing, they know it's coming. They can't stop anyway. That's just insane. So, of course, those Thunderbots have gone and found out she's a VP of a company, and its Yelp page and Google Plus page is not doing too well right now. Yelp has a message up. We might delete your comment. This is under attack for political reasons. And then her husband, who runs the company, evidently, it's a refurbishes porcelain tubs. I do love a porcelain tub, clawfoot tub or whatever. They should be saved, preserved. But anyway, there's like 20 employees there as part of this story. So he's like, to the comment, one commenter, he's like, what does Thunderfoot's beef with my wife, or whatever he said, whatever names were used. I think he said Phil Mason and Jenny, or whatever her name is, I forget, and have to do with my business. And this is a threat to employees. And it's like, I agree with that sentiment, but I also agreed with it the other way. You can't have laughing which going. It's just like writing a letter campaign. She's actually in her video saying, if you lose your job or anything, whatever, that's on you. And Jenny Jenny McDermott, she also was like, that's like, well, if you lose your job because you spew hate, that's on you. What about other people that work in his lab that need him as a co-worker to do their work? What about people in other labs that are using that research for their projects? What about, there's always going to be fallout. You attack someone like that. And she's like, she would fire somebody from her porcelain finishing business if she found out they were spewing hate. I mean, like a Thunderfoot turned out to work for her. Well, what a shitty boss you are then. Because there's nothing in that that makes them dangerous or criminal, or not really dangerous and or criminal and or bad at restoring porcelain to its beautiful white glory. And here's the thing too about intersectionality, is like intersectionality and feminism means a certain thing, but the general concept is that, you know, like the situation of prejudice against a black woman is not just the prejudice against blacks plus the prejudice against women. No, there's a role for this intersectional thing. It gets its own reputation and then a characterization in the society and the traditional views, and then you're subject to that. In addition to maybe being subject to whatever the mainstream behavior is of whatever group you can be recognized in from far. So both of these things are working against you, and it's not a simple sum of its parts. You know, it's not like, you know, and also you're disabled, and it's not like you just add those up and they overlap. No, they interact in a way and get their almost their own package of a reputation, right? Intersectionality. Well, to me, as a peace activist, the reason I'd be primarily a peace activist is, to me, this is the intersection of all progressive activism of the kind we're talking about: social justice activism, social fairness activism. And, you know, and that's a requirement. Like I've said this before, my in the sense in which I'm a feminist, is not, I haven't worked directly on a lot of feminist things. I haven't had to, but the feminists have helped me. We're in a coalition, and my help to the feminists is that I always keep feminism in mind. I don't get a position on labor that's going to contradict feminism. I believe I can find a cohesive set of solutions that don't screw over any of these groups or groups we haven't thought of, and we can bring in men's rights and so on. All right. So when you say it's okay to go to someone's employer to hassle them, you're just a capitalist pig. What are you talking about? You're going to exploit the fact that employers de facto have a right they're not supposed to have, which is to squelch someone's free speech. You endorse that. You would do it as an employer, and you would do it to somebody else as an employee. Then I can tell you're not for social justice. because you don't care about worker rights. Um, so yeah, it's immoral. It's counterproductive because I can't even blame uh, any anybody, from the most reasonable skeptic on feminism like Noel Plum or or moderately sarcastic angry vixen Sargon of Assad or Akkad or whatever, or some psycho it's David Arini or something. Uh, any of those people, you know what? I, of course, they're going to push this for all it's worth because this is exactly the kind of behavior they're complaining about. So of course they're going to take that and act like anybody talking about social justice supports this kind of thing. And the fact is also it's an opportunity for me to admit, of course they do, which I always have admitted. And as a matter of fact, I've told this story before, nobody probably remembers, but like in college, I went out and, the activists were blocking the interviews for the FBI, on-campus interviews for the FBI, where they wouldn't let the students that wanted to interview go in. And I'm like, pass out your pamphlets, do whatever, try to make them aware on the way in, say something to them, put a flower in their hair, whatever. Well, that might be assault. But, let them go in because there's freedom of decision is also a civil liberty, right? It reminds me of, I knew this woman in college, a Hispanic woman, and I was friends with her, but we got in an argument about Mika and whether it's racist, some of the things they say. And she had this idea that, well, you can only be racist if you're in the dominant culture. Well, that's bullshit. Definitely not all activists believe that. Certainly not a lot of white male activists my age or older. I can't speak for the 20-year-olds, but 20-year-olds are always fucking stupid. No offense, 20-year-olds, you know what I'm talking about. So didn't mean to be harsh there, but it's not entirely true. But just statistically though, and so yeah, what was the other thing? Counterproductive, immoral, irresponsible, right? Because now her business, it's not like somebody just went out of the blue and did it to her. She for sure provoked it, right or wrong, like punched somebody in the face. It becomes difficult to say whether when the person punches him back, you might have a legal system that says, well, you're both going for a certain amount of assault. But on the other hand, it's like, well, obviously you provoked this. Like it didn't matter what happened to the people that would be struck by it. And it bounces right back on you because of an irrational self-doxing. And look what you've done, So that's pretty irresponsible because it's not just you and your own risks, but somebody else. And then bad for health because when you become a monster, you've fought too long, right? Retire.